here we are at last. Welcome to yet another The Chatting Magpie read along, and it is Friday or the weekend for those of you in the future. Happy to see you here. Happy to be here. Sorry, I'm a little late. But you know, it happens. So happy to see Liz. Liz, you were the very first one of the Early gang. Welcome. Hi Magpie, and says hi Magpie and hey everyone. Hello Liz. Happy to see you. And Teal also, Early gang. I can't get over the little pun, you guys. What are we gonna call ourselves? What are we gonna call the Early gang once we're done with Jane Eyre, you guys? And I actually feel like I need to have a different name for the peeps that joined the live in this channel. Like in the sense of the bookworm, the other channel, we're all bookworms. Because it's a sense of a bookworm, so we're all bookworms. Is it okay if I just call everybody just bookworms? We're still bookworms, we're just not like trademark bookworms, you know? I don't know. Nestlings? No, the nestlings are the peeps over on the Discord server. Let a help out a girl here, and yeah. I need to find a collective name. Alright, so happy to see you guys, and let's see who else is in the chat. Red Tempest. Hey Red, happy to see you. It's been a while. Let's see. It says, hi, Early Gang here for spoilers since I read that they're engaged. I am so glad you finally made your way over to our side. It is important for you to know that I am doing the best that I can to, on every single video, in the description, I put what happened on the session before. So if for some reason there's a day that you see that I'm going to go live, but you didn't read or you didn't listen in on the one before, just read the description and it'll say, yes, Jane and Rochester are engaged or whatever. Now let's find out more about this. So it's like little TLDRs, I suppose, of the session before. It's just an effort that I'm doing so that you guys don't feel like, oh my goodness, if I listen in and I haven't listened to the other ones, then I'm gonna feel left out, or I won't know what's going on. No, yeah, I'll catch you up. Even if you didn't read the description, I'll still catch you up if you tell me, like, hey, what's happened since let's see, since Jane left the orphanage. I'm like, yo, that was the last time you listened. Okay, I will fill you in quickly. So yeah, I just want you to enjoy it, and I just want you to be here, even if you didn't read the ones before. So welcome, Red. And yes, shocking indeed. They are engaged despite all odds, for better or worse. Rochester basically kind of like bullied Jane into admitting that she loved him. He basically like said like, I'm gonna try to make her jealous. He got Blanche Ingram, like a beautiful society lady, like absolutely everything that Jane is not. Rich, haughty, proudful. He got her around to come to his house along with a great many people, and he tried to make Jane jealous, and Jane wasn't entirely jealous. She was just kind of like disappointed in him, and disappointed in Blanche Ingram's game, because Blanche was, you know, she didn't know how to woo him, anyway. She left. She went over to her relative's house because she got a letter, or no, like they gave her word that her Aunt Reed, yes, the evil aunt that cast her off, was dying. She went over there while her aunt was dying. She confessed to Jane that Jane has an uncle out there who is, you know, he made his fortune and he wants to adopt her because he has no other family. So he's like, yeah, when I die, I'm gonna leave everything I have to her. But Jane Eyre, being the hateful biatch that she is, of course, she told him Jane is dead. Yeah, so, yeah, so anyway, now we have Jane return to Thornfield, and after the aunt died, and she met with Rochester. After some time, he was like, he she basically was almost pushed to confess her feelings to Rochester, and here we are. They confirm that they like each other, they both love each other, and they're gonna get married, and good. At least good for Jane. We're worried though. There were some omens that probably this might not be a good idea, but we'll talk about them soon. Let's see. Little Butterfly says, going to listen later, have fun. Okay, Little Butterfly, thank you. And also thank you for the memes you just dropped over on Discord for Father's Day video I'm working on the other channel. Yes, it'll be hopefully fun, a fun little video. But thank you for the memes. Now Crusher says, greetings from my VR headset. Greetings, Crusher. I hope you're enjoying your experience. That's fancy. I wonder what would happen if I were to live from a VR headset. Would that let people in VR have a more immersive experience? I don't know, you guys. Well, how would that work? Anyway, just wondering out loud. Anyway, I'm happy to see everybody here, and oh, yes, Rochester pulled that Nagatoro. You know what? I haven't watched Nagatoro. That's the one that Don't Bully Me. That's the one with like the girl and the boy who does art or something like that. In this case, is Nagatoro Rochester and Senpai Jane? This was he bullied into? Was it? Is that what you mean? She was disappointing and jealous in him. Disappointing, jealous. Kat says, but what if Jane didn't like him back? Rochester didn't know for sure. Just a thought. Yeah. So he wanted her to confess already, because he's like, yeah, I feel like we have a vibe here. He feigned indifference. He feigned that he was okay with letting her go. He basically said, yeah, I'm gonna get married. And Jane's like, well, I don't want to live in a house with Blanche Ingram as my mistress, because Blanche is a cruel woman and she's gonna mistreat Adele. She's gonna mistreat me. He's like, cool. I'll find you employment. Then he was like, yeah, I found you a place in Ireland. It's another country. You have to, and he's like, but you'll be fine. So he feigned indifference, and to the point that she was like, how could you do this? Like, she rebelled against whatever he was saying. So yeah, he was not a good boy. He was a little cruel. So anyway, well, I guess we should be happy for Jane's sake. This is what Jane wanted. So all right. Okay. So Crusher confirms, yes, Rochester is Nagatoro for sure. Okay. All right. So I really have to check that anime. You know, I was gonna check it out, but because people said it was like The Dangers in My Heart a little. But I'm gonna check it out. The first episode I could not get through the first half. I was just like, I can't. But I'm gonna have faith. Some of you guys said it's good, so I'm gonna do another 3 episodes. Okay. So what Jane didn't do anything about Aunt for lying to her last uncle? Exactly. So it's kind of seen like as a character growth that when the aunt confessed to the fact that she lied about Jane being dead, Jane didn't go into a passion as she would have done as a kid. Jane didn't recourse to being cruel or cold or to strike back. She was in a way a lot like Helen. She was like, I understand you hated me, but what if we try to start afresh? You know, you're dying. Let's at least mend our relationship before you die. I forgive you from the bottom of my heart, so please, please don't hate me, Aunt. But no, the aunt was like, the aunt resisted every single thing that Jane did to try to make amends and be friends. So yeah, that's unfortunate. So it's a mark of Jane's growth. When she was a kid, she was very emotional. She said some things that she really shouldn't have, but it's not like she's not gonna do anything. Like she knows her uncle is alive, so I'm sure she's gonna write to him at some point. Because she really does need to have some male protectors around her. Unfortunately, it's that kind of world where you do need male protection. Yes. All right. So let us get started, you guys. I think I caught us all up to speed. And let's see, what else? I think I should probably address some comments that I got on the other ones that I wasn't able to reply. So Akihana in session 13 asks, I do wonder when Jane will tell Rochester that she has a living uncle who tried to reach out and wished to adopt her, and what man could indeed possibly stand them at the moment. Oh, okay. So another thing that happened when Rochester confessed and proposed to Jane, she said yes, and he was kind of like speaking to himself. He's like, I've got her, and let no man meddle with me. I aim to keep her. Those were his words, you guys. And Jane is like, she doesn't know what he's talking about. And she's like, there's no one to meddle. I have no family. And he's like, yes, and that's the best of it. I'm like, yo, what? This is red flag content stuff. So yeah. Yeah, we don't know exactly what he means by that. That's going to be explained a little later. But yeah, all this time we have been hearing, or Rochester has been hinting at something in the past. So let's see. He's trying to atone for it or something. And yes, also Akihana in the other video says, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that chestnut splitting in half screams bad omen to me. It feels like a warning of separation to come. Indeed. So again, where Jane and Rochester had their little moment, it started to rain. They were sitting at the base of a tree, a chestnut tree, and then it started raining. They ran back home, but overnight a lightning struck the tree, and so that's seen like as an omen of bad fortune or bad luck for what just happened. Yeah. Oh, there you are, Akihana. Happy to see you. It's like I was waiting for you. I was actually reading out loud some of your comments from session 13. I just got around to seeing them, and so I am replying to them. Happy to see you. And no, the reading hasn't started yet. I was maybe kind of subconsciously waiting for you to show up. All right, you guys, let's get started then. Happy to see all this beautiful gang. Let's do this. Jane Eyre, Chapter 24. As I rose and dressed, I thought over what had happened, and wondered if it were a dream. I could not be certain of the reality till I had seen Mr. Rochester again, and heard him renew his words of love and promise. While arranging my hair, I looked at my face in the glass, and felt it was no longer plain. There was hope in its aspect, and life in its color, and my eyes seemed as if they had beheld the fount of fruition, and borrowed beams from the lustrous ripple. I had often been unwilling to look at my master, because I feared he could not be pleased at my look, but I was sure I might lift my face to his now, and not cool his affection by its expression. I took a plain but clean and light summer dress from my drawer, and put it on. It seemed no attire had ever so well become me, because none had I ever worn in so blissful a mood. I was not surprised, when I ran down into the hall, to see that a brilliant June morning had succeeded to the tempest of the night, and to feel, through the open glass door, the breathing of a fresh and fragrant breeze. Nature must be gladsome when I was so happy. A beggar woman and her little boy, pale, ragged objects both, were coming up the walk, and I ran down and gave them all the money I happened to have in my purse, some 3 or 4 shillings. Good or bad, they must partake of my jubilee. The rooks cawed, and blither birds sang, but nothing was so merry or so musical as my own rejoicing heart. Mrs. Fairfax surprised me by looking at the window with a sad countenance, and saying gravely, Miss Eyre, will you come to breakfast? During the meal she was quiet and cool, but I could not Undeceive her, then. I must wait for my master to give explanations, and so must she. I ate what I could, and then I hastened upstairs. I met Adele leaving the schoolroom. Where are you going? It's time for lessons. Mr. Rochester has sent me away to the nursery. Where is he? In there, pointing to the apartment she had left, and I went in, and there he stood. Come and bid me good morning, said he. I gladly advanced, and it was not merely a cold word now, not even a shake of the hand that I received, but an embrace and a kiss. It seemed natural, it seemed genial to be so well loved, so caressed by him. Jane, you look blooming and smiling and pretty. Truly pretty this morning. Is this my pale little elf? Is this my mustard seed? This little sunny-faced girl with the dimpled cheek and rosy lips, the satin-smooth hazel hair, and the radiant hazel eyes? I had green eyes, reader, but you must excuse the mistake. For him they were new dyed, I suppose. It is Jane Eyre, sir. Soon to be Jane Rochester, he added. In 4 weeks, Janet, not a day more. Do you hear? I did, and I could not quite comprehend it. It made me giddy. The feeling the announcement sent through me was something stronger than was consistent with joy, something that smote and stunned. It was, I think, almost fear. You blushed, and now you are white, Jane. What is that for? Because you gave me a new name, Jane Rochester, and it seems so strange. Yes, Mrs. Rochester, said he, young Mrs. Rochester, Fairfax Rochester's girl bride. It can never be, sir. It does not sound likely. Human beings never enjoy complete happiness in this world. I was not born for a different destiny to the rest of my species. To imagine such a lot befalling me is a fairy tale, a daydream. Which I can and will realize. I shall begin today. This morning I wrote to my banker in London to send me certain jewels he has in his keeping, heirlooms for the ladies of Thornfield. In a day or two, I hope to pour them into your lap, for every privilege, every attention shall be yours that I would accord a peer's daughter, if about to marry her. Oh, sir, never rain jewels. I don't like to hear them spoken of. Jewels for Jane Eyre sounds unnatural and strange. I would rather not have them. I will myself put a diamond chain round your neck and a circlet on your forehead, which it will become. For nature, at least, has stamped her patent of nobility on this brow, Jane, and I will clasp the bracelets on these fine wrists, and load these fair-like fingers with rings. No, no, sir. Think of other subjects, and speak of other things, and in another strain. Don't address me as if I were a beauty. I am your plain Quakerish governess. You are a beauty in my eyes, and a beauty just after the desire of my heart. Delicate and aerial. Puny and insignificant, you mean. You're a dreaming, sir, or sneering. For God's sakes, don't be ironical. I will make the world acknowledge you a beauty, too, he went on, while I really became uneasy at the strain he had adopted, because I felt he was either deluding himself or trying to delude me. I will attire my Jane in satin and lace, and she shall have roses in her hair, and I will cover the head I love best with a priceless veil. And then you won't know me, sir, and I shall not be your Jane Eyre any longer, but an ape in a harlequin's jacket, a jay in borrowed plumes. I would as soon see you, Mr. Rochester, tricked out in stage trappings, as myself clad in a court lady's robe. And I don't call you handsome, sir, though I love you most dearly, far too dearly to flatter you. Don't flatter me. He pursued his theme, however, without noticing my deprecation. This very day I shall take you in the carriage to Millcote, and you must choose some dresses for yourself. I told you we shall be married in 4 weeks. The wedding is to take place quietly, in the church down below yonder, and then I shall waft you away at once to town. After a brief stay there, I shall bear my treasure to regions near to the sun, to French vineyards and Italian plains, and she shall see whatever is famous in old story and in modern record. She shall taste, too, of the life of cities, and she shall learn to value herself by just comparison with others. Shall I travel? And with you, sir? You shall sojourn in Paris, Rome, and Naples, at Florence, Venice, and Vienna. All the ground I have wandered over shall be retrodden by you. Wherever I stamp my foot, your sylphist foot shall step also. 10 years since, I flew through Europe half mad, with disgust, hate, and rage as my companions. Now I shall revisit it, healed and cleansed, with a very angel as my comforter. I laughed at him as he said this. I am no angel, and I will not be one till I die. I will be myself. Mr. Rochester, you must neither expect nor exact anything celestial of me, for you will not get it, any more than I shall get it of you, which I do not at all anticipate. What do you anticipate of me? For a little while, you will perhaps be as you are now, a very little while, and then you will turn cool, and then you will be capricious, and then you will be stern, and I shall have much ado to please you. But when you get used to me, you will perhaps like me again. Like me, I say, not love me. I suppose your love will effervesce in 6 months or less. I have observed in books written by men that period is assigned as the furthest to which a husband's ardor extends. Yet, after all, as a friend and companion, I hope never to become quite distasteful to my dear master. Distasteful? And like you again? I think I shall like you again, and yet again, and I will make you confess I do not only like, but love you with truth, fervor, and constancy. Yet you're not capricious, sir? To women who please me only by their faces, I am the very devil. When I find out they have neither souls nor hearts, when they open to me a perspective of flatness, triviality, and perhaps imbecility, coarseness, and ill temper. But to the clear eye and eloquent tongue, to the soul made of fire and the character that bends but does not break, at once supple and stable, tractable and consistent, I am ever tender and true. Had you ever experienced such a character, sir? Did you ever love such a one? I love it now. But before me, if indeed I in any respect come up to your difficult standard. I never met your like, Miss Jane. You please me, and you master me. You seem to submit, and I like the sense of pliancy you impart. And while I am twining the soft silken skein around my finger, it sends a thrill up my arm and to the heart. I am influenced, conquered, and the influence is sweeter than I can express, and the conquest I undergo has a witchery beyond any triumph I can win. Why do you smile, Jane? What does that inexplicable, that uncanny turn of countenance mean? I was thinking, sir, you will excuse the idea, it was involuntary, I was thinking of Hercules and Samson with their charmers. You were, you little elfish— Hush, sir! You don't talk very wisely just now, any more than those gentlemen acted wisely. However, as they had been married, they would no doubt by their severity as husbands have made up for their softness as suitors, and so will you, I fear. I wonder how you will answer me a year hence, should I ask a favor it does not suit your convenience or pleasure to grant. Ask me something now, Jane, the least thing. I desire to be entreated. Indeed I will, sir. I have my petition all ready. Speak! But if you look up and smile with that countenance, I shall swear concession before I know to what, and that will make a fool of me. Not at all, sir. I ask only this. Don't send for the jewels, and don't crown me with roses. You might as well put a border of gold lace round that plain pocket handkerchief you have there. I might as well gild refined gold. I know it. Your request is granted, then, for the time. I will remand the order I dispatched to my banker. But you have not yet asked for anything. You have prayed a gift to be withdrawn. Try again. Well then, sir, you have the goodness to gratify my curiosity. which is much piqued on one point. He looked disturbed. What? What? He said hastily. Curiosity is a dangerous petition. It is well I have not taken a vow to accord every request. But there can be no danger in complying with this, sir. Utter it, Jane, but I wish that instead of a mere inquiry into perhaps a secret, it was a wish for half my estate. Now, King Assuerus, what would I want with half your estate? Do you think I'm a Jew, sir, seeking good investment in land? I would much rather have all your confidence. You will not exclude me from your confidence if you admit me to your heart? You're welcome to all my confidence that is worth having, Jane. But for God's sake, don't desire a useless burden. Don't long for poison. Don't turn out a downright evil in my hands. Why not, sir? You have just been telling me how much you like to be conquered, and how pleasant over-persuasion is to you. Don't you think I had better take advantage of the confession, and begin and coax and entreat, even cry and be sulky if necessary, for the sake of a mere essay of my power? I dare you to any such experiment. Encroach, presume, and the game is up. Is it, sir? You soon give in. How stern you look now. Your eyebrows have become as thick as my finger, and your forehead resembles what, in some very astonishing poetry, I once saw styled a blue-piled thunderloft. That will be your married look, sir, I suppose? If that will be your married look, I, as a Christian, will soon give up the notion of consorting with a mere sprite or salamander. But what had you to ask, thing? Out with it. There. You're less than civil now, and I like the rudeness a great deal better than flattery. I had rather be a thing than an angel. This is what I have to ask. Why did you take such pains to make me believe you wished to marry Miss Ingram? Is that all? Thank God it is no worse. And now he unknit his black brows, looked down, smiling at me, and stroked my hair, as if well pleased at seeing a danger averted. I think I may confess, he continued, even though I should make you a little indignant, Jane, and I have seen what a fiery spirit you can be when you're indignant. You glowed in the cool moonlight last night when you mutinied against fate and claimed your rank as my equal. Janet, by the by, it was you who made me the offer. Of course I did. But to the point, if you please, sir, Miss Ingram. Well, I feigned courtship of Miss Ingram because I wished to render you as madly in love with me as I was with you. And I knew jealousy would be the best ally I could call in for the furtherance to that end. Excellent. Now you are small, not one whit bigger than the end of my little finger. It was a burning shame and a scandalous disgrace to act in that way. Did you think nothing of Miss Ingram's feelings, sir? Her feelings are concentrated in one, pride, and that needs humbling. Were you jealous, Jane? Never mind, Mr. Rochester. It is in no way interesting to you to know that. Answer me truly once more. Do you think Miss Ingram will not suffer from your dishonest coquetry? Won't she feel forsaken and deserted? Impossible! When I told you how she, on the contrary, deserted me, the idea of my insolvency cooled, or rather extinguished, her flame in a moment. You have a curious, designing mind, Mr. Rochester. I am afraid your principles on some points are eccentric. My principles were never trained, Jane. They may have grown a little awry for want of attention. Once again, seriously, may I enjoy the great good that has been vouchsafed to me, without fearing that anyone else is suffering the bitter pain I myself felt a while ago. Ah, Jane, you're such a good little girl. That you may. Oh, there you go. He says the same thing I did. That you may, my good little girl. There's, though. Okay, let's put a pause here. Might as well make this commentary. So, here are some things. This is written in Victorian era. So, yeah, like when we see like people call the people that are gonna get married, a man called the woman he's gonna marry a good little girl or whatever, or like girl bride, whatnot absolutely irks our modern sensitivities, because in the way we think now, it just screams of like child predator. Yes, just go with the story. I know, I understand, but she's 18, he is 30 something. So yes, compared to it would, because of their age difference is so great, that's why he calls her a girl. And it was, again, a common term to use back then without feeling like child predator talk. All right, so just keeping that in mind as we read, okay? By the way, I'm just reading some comments here. Yes, so girl bride indeed, pointing it out, Akihana. And Red Tempest, she is the apple in his eye, lol. No, really, he is besotted with her, you guys. He really does love her. Like, I know you guys, like, it seems like, oh, kind of sus, but he really, his feelings are true. Like, yeah, like, he's really in love with her. Now, Red Tempest is like, she called herself an ape in Harlequin's jacket. What? Why? Why? Because he thinks that the way he wants to shower all kinds of finery on her, it would just look like the finery is wearing her, and that it would look like she's just playing a part. I don't know why you had to use Harlequin wearing monkey, but those were her words, and that's how she felt. That's pretty bad. Like a performer, maybe. It kind of feels like a performer. Yeah, Kihana says she really is quite the pessimist. Well, yeah, I mean, she knows that Rochester is kind of like, has been, ever since she's known Rochester, he's been like, he started off cold, then he warmed up, and then he kind of like was a little changeable. So she expects that after a while he's gonna get tired of, you know, being like the wooing lover. He's gonna go back to being his usual cool self with her, you know. So she's like, I don't expect you to always be in love with me, but at least let's be friends and be good companions to each other. Like, that's all I can really hope for realistically. And he's like, yo, no, I truly love you. I'm never gonna like not like you. But she, of course, she's being pessimist, being realistic, because again, in this day and age, people did not marry entirely like for love like this. This was such a huge social, cultural divide between them, and just age-wise. So yeah, so she knows that with time the ardor will cool, and she's like, I know it'll happen, but you know, I understand it's gonna happen, but you know, I'm okay with it. Let's just continue to be good friends always. But of course he's like, no, I'm always gonna love you. I hope he does. She deserves all the love and care. Yes, she ain't materialistic. That's good. I mean, that's honestly, I'd be like, yes, sure, send me all the jewels, and I would put them like in a safe. And then, because you know, back then, peoples, women could not have their own bank accounts. If you had money, it was your husband's money. So when a man or a family member or whatever, they gave you jewelry, that was your possession. That was like kind of like your savings fund. If anything went wrong, you could sell the jewelry, and that was your savings money. So yeah, Jane, get that jewelry. If anything happens, you need to have a little nest egg somewhere. So don't be a fool, and yes, tell him you want the money. Look, I'm just saying, like, if the thing with the uncle does not pan out, maybe he's just saying, okay, you need to have a backup plan, a safety fund. Come on, girl, don't turn down the jewels. You don't have to wear them, just put them aside in a safe place. All right, yes, and she does ask the question about Blanche Ingram, and he seems to really relish the thought that she could be, that she was jealous. But here's something interesting too, is she was like, can I be happy and enjoy my new happiness with you, like with a clear conscience? Like, I don't want to be happy knowing that me being with you is causing somebody else to be hurt or in pain or to have heartache. Like, she just really wants to make sure that her happiness is not at the expense of somebody else. Like, for example, Blanche Ingram. Like, and he's like, no, Blanche Ingram never loved me. All she wanted was my money. Gold digger. You don't have to worry about it. So, I mean, that does also speak good. See, Jane is a really good girl, you guys. She's so good. All right. Let's see. Akihana says, I wonder when Jane will ask about Grace and Mason. Well, let's see. Let's see what's the next thing she asks. All right. All right, let's continue. Red Tempest is like, he is Sylvester wooing Florencia. Also asks, I wonder when Jane will meet up with Tarzan, or has she already? Wrong book, Red Tempest, but Akihana does says, isn't Rochester already kind of Tarzanish? He is somebody that needs to be tamed a little. Red Tempest says, Magpie would want all the jewelry so she can buy Ferdinand merch. LOL. What Ferdinand merch? What Ferdinand merch, Red Tempest? What Ferdinand merch? There's no Ferdinand merch out there. I need a figurine. I need a figurine like yesterday. I need Ferdinand merch. Speaking of merch, well, I'll talk about that later. Yeah, so Akihan also says, although I wouldn't accept jewelry too, at least not until marriage. Yeah, of course, but I mean, they're gonna be hers by right. So she does deserve that, and she should accept it. If women back then, says Crusher, if women back then couldn't have their own money, then it makes no sense that Jane's uncle would reach out to her to be added to his will. Well, they did have money as in like a trust. It was, okay, so Victorian era 101, I guess. Or even like Pride and Prejudice times. This is, so the money, for example, that she would be to inherit, like let's say for example, let's say she inherits $50,000, right? Well, it's not like she inherits the lump sum. She inherits the business interest that would give her an income that would provide for her for the rest of her life. So everybody here, even Rochester, it's not like he has like a huge fortune just sitting there that he lives from. No, all that fortune is in property, and they live off of that interest. So yeah, so that's basically what she would be inheriting. She would be inheriting whatever the uncle has, and she would live off that interest. And of course, they would be like thought of as business investments, which would be different than opening up your own bank account. So yeah. Also, like I also meant like dowries. When a woman married in the day, she would bring in to the marriage a dowry, and though that money came with her, her husband got to keep it. Her husband got to do whatever the heck he wanted with it. Gamble it away, spend it on spend it on loose women. Yes, he could do that because it was now his money. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Red Tempest and Crusher and everybody else, you guys are really tempting me to make my own merch, Ferdinand merch. We'll see. I know, I remember the Ferdinand pillow, but you know what? I heard that people do, or whenever people say body pillow, they think of really bad and nasty stuff. I would have never thought about it. And so I'm like, no, because no, like a body pillow, just hug it and that's it, you know? But people apparently do like nasty stuff with it, you guys. So no body pillows for this magpie. I'll just be content with a framed picture. All right, everybody, let's return from this nonsense. We were talking about Rochester and Jane, and we still need to watch Pride and Prejudice as Red Tempest. Red Tempest. Ugh. We have to watch Pride and Prejudice one of these days. Magpie, says Patrick LC. We all know you'd buy a 1-to-1 Ferdinand doll if you could. Maybe you can get a body. No, no body pillow. I keep telling you, no body pillow. All right, let's continue on. By the way, happy to see you, Patrick. What about a couch pillow, says Red Tempest. You know what? Why not? I could hug the Ferdinand pillow while I watch anime. Yeah. Yeah, why not? That would be okay. I'm okay with that. All right, let's do this then. Continuing on with Jane Eyre. Where were we? Okay. So again, once again, seriously, may I enjoy the great good that has been vouchsafed to me, without fearing that anyone else is suffering the bitter pain that I myself felt a while ago? That you may, my good little girl. There's not another being in the world that has the same pure love for me as yourself, for I lay that pleasant unction to my soul, Jane, a belief in your affection. I turned my lips to the hand that lay on my shoulder. I loved him very much, more than I could trust myself to say, more than words had power to express. Ask something more, he said presently. It is my delight to be entreated and to yield. I was again ready with my request. Communicate your intentions to Mrs. Fairfax, sir. She saw me with you last night in the hall, and she was shocked. Give her some explanation before I see her again. It pains me to be misjudged by so good a woman. Go to your room and put on your bonnet, he replied. I mean you to accompany me to Millcote this morning, and while you prepare for the drive, I will enlighten the old lady's understanding. Did she think, Janet, that you had given the world for love and considered it well lost? I believe she thought I had forgotten my station, and yours, sir. Station, station. Your station is in my heart, and on the necks of those who would insult you, now or hereafter. Go. Huh. I wonder what he was feeling then when Blanche Ingram and the mother were like insulting Jane to her face. Like, what was he thinking? Did he how pissed off was he? I was soon dressed, and when I heard Mr. Rochester quit Mrs. Fairfax's parlor, I hurried down to it. The old lady had been reading her morning portion of Scripture, the lesson for the day. Her Bible lay open before her, and her spectacles were upon it. Her occupation, suspended by Mr. Rochester's announcement, seemed now forgotten. Her eyes, fixed on the wall opposite, expressed the surprise of a quiet mind stirred by unwonted tidings. Seeing me, she roused herself. She made a sort of effort to smile and framed a few words of congratulation. But the smile expired, and the sentence was abandoned and unfinished. She put up her spectacles, shut the Bible, and pushed her chair back from the table. I feel so astonished, she began. I hardly know what to say to you, Miss Eyre. I have surely not been dreaming, have I? Sometimes I half fall asleep when I am sitting alone, and fancy things that have never happened. It has seemed to me more than once, when I have been in a doze, that my husband, who died 15 years since, has come in and sat down beside me. And now that I even heard him call me by my name, Alice, as he used to do. Now, can you tell me whether it is actually true that Mr. Rochester has asked you to marry him? Don't laugh at me, but I really thought he came in here 5 minutes ago and said that in a month he would be his wife. He has said the same thing to me, I replied. He has? Do you believe him? Have you accepted him? Yes. She looked at me bewildered. I could have never thought it. He is a proud man. Well, the Rochesters were proud, and his father at least liked money. He too has always been called careful. He means to marry you? He tells me so. She surveyed my whole person. In her eyes I read that they had found no charm powerful enough to solve the enigma. It passes me," she continued, "but no doubt it is true since you say so. How it will answer I cannot tell. I really don't know. Equality of position and fortune is often advisable in such cases, and there are 20 years of difference in your ages. He might almost be your father." "Now indeed, Mrs. Fairfax," exclaimed I, nettled, "he is nothing like my father. No one who saw us together would suppose it for an instant. Mr. Rochester looks as young, and is as young, as some men at 25. "Is it really for love he's going to marry you?" she asked. I was so hurt by her coldness and skepticism that tears rose to my eyes. "I am sorry to grieve you," pursued the widow, "but you're so young, and so little acquainted with men. I wish to put you on your guard. It is an old saying that all is not gold that glitters, and in this case I do fear there will be something found to be different to what either you or I expect." "Why, am I a monster? Is it impossible that Mr. Rochester should have a sincere affection for me? No, no, you're very well, and very much improved of late, and Mr. Rochester, I dare say, is fond of you. I have always noticed that you were a sort of pet of his. There are times when, for your sake, I have been a little uneasy at his marked preference. I have wished to put you on your guard, but I did not like to suggest even the possibility of wrong. I knew such an idea would shock or perhaps offend you, and you were so discreet, and so thoroughly modest and sensible. I hoped you might be trusted to protect yourself. Last night I cannot tell you what I suffered when I sought all over the house and could find you nowhere, nor the master either, and then at 12 o'clock saw you come in with him." "Well, never mind that now," I interrupted impatiently. "It is enough that all was right." "I hope all will be right in the end. But believe me, you cannot be too careful. Try and keep Mr. Rochester at a distance. Distrust yourself as well as him. Gentlemen in his station are not accustomed to marry their governesses." I was growing truly irritated. Happily, Adele ran in. Let me go to Milka too," she cried. "Mr. Rochester won't, though there is so much room in the new carriage. Beg him to let me go, mademoiselle." "That I will, Adele," and I hastened away with her, glad to quit my gloomy monitress. The carriage was ready. They were bringing it round to the front, and my master was pacing the pavement, Pilot following him backwards and forwards. "Adele may accompany us, may she not, sir?" "I told her no. I'll have no brats. I'll only have you." "Do let her go, Mr. Rochester, if you please. It would be better." "Not it. She will be a restraint." He was quite peremptory, both in look and voice. The chill of Mrs. Fairfax's warnings and the damp of her doubts were upon me. Something of unsubstantiality and uncertainty had beset my hopes. I half lost the sense of power over him. I was about to mechanically obey him without further remonstrance, but as he helped me into the carriage, he looked at my face. "What's the matter?" he asked. "All the sunshine is gone. Do you really wish the Byrne to go with you? Will it annoy you if she is left behind?" "I would far rather she went, sir." "Then off for your bonnet and back like a flash of lightning," cried he to Adele. She obeyed him with what speed she might. After all, a single morning's interruption will not matter much. When I mean shortly to claim you, your thoughts, conversation, and company for life. Adele, when lifted in, commenced kissing me by way of expressing her gratitude for my intercession. She was instantly stowed away into a corner of the other side of him. She then peeped round to where I sat. So stern a neighbor was too restrictive to him in his present factitious mood. She dared to whisper no observations, nor ask him any information. "Let her come to me," I entreated. "She will perhaps trouble you, sir. There's plenty of room on this side." He handed her over as if she had been a lapdog. "I'll send her to school yet," he said, but now he was smiling. Adele heard him and asked if she was to go to school sans mademoiselle. "Yes, absolutely sans mademoiselle, for I am to take mademoiselle to the moon, and there shall seek a cave in one of the white valleys among the volcano tops, and mademoiselle shall live with me there, and only me." "She will have nothing to eat. You will starve her," observed Adele. "I shall gather manna for her morning and night. The plains and hillsides in the moon are bleached with manna, Adele." "She will want to warm herself. What will she do for a fire?" "Fire rises out of lunar mountains. When she is cold, I'll carry her up to a peak and lay her down on the edge of a crater." "Oh, qu'elle y sera mal, peu confortable." Ahem. "Oh, how little comfort there will be for her." "Oh, how little comfort there will be for her. And her clothes, they will wear out. How can she get new ones?" Mr. Rochester professed to be puzzled. What would you do, Adele? Cudgel your brains for an expedient. How would a white or pink cloud answer for a gown, do you think? And one could cut a pretty enough scarf out of a rainbow." "She is far better as she is," concluded Adele after musing some time. "Besides, she will get tired of living with only you and the moon. If I were mademoiselle, I would never consent to go with you." "Right, Adele. She has consented. She has pledged her word." "But you can't get her there. There's no road to the moon. It is all air, and neither you nor she can fly." Let's see who's speaking. "Adele, look at that field." We were now outside the Thornfield gates and bowling lightly along the smooth road to Milket, where the dust was well laid by the thunderstorm, and where the low hedges and lofty timbered trees on each side glistened green and rain-refreshed. In that field, Adele, I was walking late one evening about a fortnight since, the evening of the day you helped me to make hay in the orchard meadows, and, as I was tired with raking swaths, I sat down to rest on a stile, and there I took out a little book and a pencil, and began to write about a misfortune that befell me long ago, and a wish I had for happy days to come. I was writing away very fast, though daylight was fading from the leaf, when something came up the path and stopped 2 yards off of me. This is when Jane returned from her auntie's house. This is as close as a POV as we will get, though in true Rochester fashion. I was writing away very fast, though daylight was fading from the leaf, when something came up the path and stopped 2 yards off of me. I looked at it. It was a little thing with a veil of gossamer on its head. I beckoned it to come near me. It stood soon at my knee. I never spoke to it, and it never spoke to me in words, but I read its eyes, and it read mine, and our speechless colloquy was come to this effect. It was a fairy, and come from Elfland, it said. Its errand was to make me happy. I must go with it out of the common world to a lonely place, such as the moon, for instance, and it nodded its head towards her horn, rising over Hay Hill. It told me of the alabaster cave and silver vale where we might live. I said I should like to go, but reminded it, as you did me, that I had no wings to fly. Oh, returned the fairy, that does not signify. Here is a talisman. It will remove all difficulties. And she held out a pretty gold ring. Put it, she said, on the fourth finger of my left hand, and I am yours, and you are mine, and we shall leave earth and make our own heaven yonder. She nodded again at the moon. The ring, Adele, is in my breeches pocket, under the guise of a sovereign, but I mean soon to change it to a ring again. But what has mademoiselle to do with it? I don't care for the fairy. You said it was mademoiselle you would take to the moon. Mademoiselle is a fairy, he said, whispering mysteriously, whereupon I told her not to mind his badinage, and she, on her part, evinced a fund of genuine French skepticism, denominating Mr. Rochester un vrai menteur, a true liar, and assuring him that she made no account of whatever of his contes de fées, and that du reste il n'avait pas de fées, et quand même il y en avait. She called him a real liar. She didn't care for his fairy tales and said fairies do not exist anyway. And even if they did, she was sure they would never appear to him, nor ever give him rings, or offer to live with him in the moon. The hour spent at Milket was a somewhat harassing one to me. Mr. Rochester obliged me to go to a certain silk warehouse, where I was ordered to choose half a dozen dresses. I hated the business. I begged leave to defer it. No, it should be gone through with it now. By dint of entreaties expressed in energetic whispers, I reduced the half-dozen to 2. These, however, he vowed he would select himself. With anxiety, I watched his eye rove over the gay stores. He fixed on a rich silk of the most brilliant amethyst dye, and a superb pink satin. I told him in a new series of whispers that he might as well buy me a gold gown and a silver bonnet at once, and should certainly never venture to wear his choice. With infinite difficulty, for he was stubborn as a stone, I persuaded him to make an exchange in favor of a sober black satin and pearl gray silk. It might pass for the present, he said, but he would yet see me glittering like a parterre. Glad I was to get him out of the silk warehouse, and then out of a jeweler's shop. The more he bought me, the more my cheek burned with a sense of annoyance and degradation. As we re-entered the carriage, and I sat back, feverish and fagged, I remember what, in the hurry of events, dark and bright, I had wholly forgotten. The letter of my uncle, Jane Eyre, to Mrs. Reed, his intention to adopt me and make me his legatee. It would indeed be a relief, I thought, if I had ever so small an independency. I never can bear being dressed like a doll by Mr. Rochester, or sitting like a second Danae, with a golden shower falling daily around me. I will write to Madeira the moment I get home, and tell my Uncle John I am going to be married, and to whom. If I had but a prospect of one day bringing Mr. Rochester an accession of fortune, I could better endure to be kept by him now. And somewhat relieved by this idea, which I failed not to execute that day, I ventured once more to meet my master and lover's eye, which most pertinaciously sought mine, though I averred both face and gaze. He smiled, and I thought his smile was such as a sultan might, in a blissful and fond moment, bestow on a slave his gold and gems had enriched. I crushed his hand, which was ever hunting mine, vigorously, and thrust it back to him red with the passionate pressure. "You need not look in that way," I said. "If you do, I'll wear nothing but my old Lowood frocks to the end of the chapter. I'll be married in this lilac gingham, and you may make a dressing gown for yourself out of the pearl gray silk, and an infinite series of waistcoats out of the black satin." He chuckled. He rubbed his hands. "Oh, it is rich to see and hear her. Is she original? Is she piquant? I would not exchange this little English girl for the Grand Turk's whole seraglio, gazelle eyes, uriforms, and all." The Eastern allusion bit me again. "I'll not stand you an inch of this instead of the seraglio," I said, "so don't consider me an equivalent for one. If you have a fancy for anything in that line, then away with you, sir, to the bazaars of Stamboul without delay, and lay out in extensive slave purchases some of that spare cash you seem at a loss to spend satisfactorily here." "And what will you do, Janet, while I am bargaining for so many tons of flesh and such assortment of black eyes?" "I'll be preparing myself to go out as missionary, to preach liberty to them that are enslaved, your harem inmates amongst the rest. I'll get admitted there, and I'll stir up mutiny, and you, three-tailed bashaw as you are, sir, shall in a trice find yourself fettered amongst our hands. Nor will I, for one, consent to cut your bonds till you have signed a charter, the most liberal the despot ever yet conferred." "I would consent to be at your mercy, Jane." "I would have no mercy, Mr. Rochester. If you supplicated for it with an eye like that, while you looked so, I should be certain that whatever charter you might grant under coercion, your first act when released would be to violate its conditions." "Why, Jane? What would you have?" "I fear you will compel me to go through a private marriage ceremony, besides that performed at the altar. You will stipulate, I see, for peculiar terms. What will they be?" "I only want an easy mind, sir, not crushed by crowded obligations. Do you remember what you said of Celine Varens? Of the diamonds, the cashmeres you gave her? I will not be your English Celine Varens. I shall continue to act as Adele's governess. By that I shall earn my board and lodging, and £30 a year besides. I'll furnish my own wardrobe out of that money, and you shall give me nothing but— Well, but what? Your regard. And if I give you mine in return, that debt will be quit. Well, for cool native impudence and pure innate pride, you haven't your equal, said he. We are now approaching Thornfield. Will it please you to dine with me today? He asked as we re-entered the gates. No, thank you, sir. And what no thank you, if one may inquire? And what for no thank you, if one may inquire? I never have dined with you, sir, and I see no reason why I should now, till— Till what? You delight in half-phrases. Till I can't help it. Do you suppose I eat like an ogre or a ghoul that you dread being the companion of my repast? I have formed no supposition on the subject, but I want to go on as usual for another month. You will give up your governessing slavery at once. Indeed, begging your pardon, sir, I shall not. I shall just go on with it as usual. I shall keep out of your way all day, and as I have been accustomed to do. You may send for me in the evening when you feel disposed to see me, and I'll come then, but at no other time. I want a smoke, Jane, or a pinch of snuff to comfort me under all this. Pour me donner en contenance. In order to keep me in countenance, as Adele would say. And unfortunately, I have neither my cigar case nor my snuff box. But listen, whisper. It is your time now, little tyrant, but it will be mine presently. And when once again I have seized you, to have and to hold, I'll just, figuratively speaking, attach you to a chain like this, touching his watch guard. Yes, bonny wee thing, I'll wear you in my bosom, lest my jewel I should tine. He said this as he helped me to alight from the carriage, and while he afterwards lifted out Adele, I entered the house, and made good my retreat upstairs. He duly summoned me to his presence in the evening. I had prepared an occupation for him, for I was determined not to spend the whole time in tete-a-tete conversation. I remembered his fine voice, and knew he liked to sing. Good singers generally do. I was no vocalist myself, and in his fastidious judgment, no musician either, but I delighted in listening when the performance was good. No sooner had twilight, the hour of romance, began to lower her blue and starry banner over the lattice, than I arose, opened the piano, and entreated him, for the love of heaven, to give me a song. He said I was a capricious witch, and that he would rather sing another time, but I averred that no time was like the present. Did I like his voice? He asked. Very much. I was not fond of pampering that susceptible vanity of his, but for once, and from motives of expediency, I would e'en soothe and stimulate it. Then, Jane, you must play the accompaniment. Very well, sir, I will try. I did try, but was presently swept off the stool and denominated a little bungler. Being pushed unceremoniously to one side, which was precisely what I wished, he usurped my place and proceeded to accompany himself, for he could play as well as sing. He hied me to the window recess, and while I sat there and looked out on the still trees and dim lawn, to a sweet air that was sung in mellow tones, the following strain. The truest love that ever heart felt at its kindled core, did through each vein in quickened start the tide of being pour. Her coming was my hope each day, her parting was my pain. The chance that did her steps delay was ice in every vein. I dreamed it would be nameless bliss, as I loved love to be, and to this object did I press, as blind as eagerly. But wide as pathless was the space that lay our lives between, and dangerous as the foamy race of ocean's surges green, and haunted as a robber path through wilderness or wood, for might and right and woe and wrath between our spirits stood. I dangers dared, I hindrance scorned, I omens did defy. Whatever menaced, harassed, and warned, I passed impetuous by. On sped my rainbow, fast as light, I flew as in a dream, for glorious rose upon my sight, the child of shower and gleam. Still bright on clouds of suffering dim shines that soft, solemn joy, nor care I now how dense and grim disasters gather nigh. I care not in this moment sweet, though all I have rushed o'er should come on pinion, strong and fleet, proclaiming vengeance sore. Though haughty hate should strike me down, right bar approach to me, and grinding might with curious frown swear endless enmity. My love has placed her little hand with noble faith in mine, and vowed that wedlock's sacred band our nature shall entwine. My love was sworn with sealing kiss with me to live, to die. I have at last my nameless bliss, as I love, loved am I. He rose and came towards me, and I saw his face all kindled, and his full falcon eye flashing, and tenderness and passion in every lineament. I quailed momentarily, and then I rallied. Soft scene, daring demonstration I would not have, and I stood in peril of both. A weapon of defense must be prepared. I wetted my tongue as he reached me, and I asked with asperity whom he was going to marry now. That was a strange question to be put by his darling Jane. Indeed, I considered it very natural and necessary one. He had talked of his future wife dying with him. What did he mean by such a pagan idea? I had no intention of dying with him. He might depend on that. Oh, all he longed, all he prayed for, was that I might live with him. Death was not for one such as I. Indeed it was. I had as good a right to die when my time came as he had, but I should bide that time, and not be hurried away in a suttee. Would I forgive him for the selfish idea, and prove my pardon with a reconciling kiss? No, I would rather be excused. Here I heard myself apostrophized as a hard little thing, and it was added any other woman would have been melted to the marrow at hearing such stanzas crooned in her praise. I assured him that I was naturally hard, very flinty, and that he would often find me so, and that, moreover, I was determined to show him divers rugged points in my character before the ensuing 4 weeks elapsed. He should know fully what sort of a bargain he had made, while there was yet time to rescind it. Would I be quiet and talk rationally? I would be quiet if he liked, and as to talking rationally, I flattered myself I was doing that now. He fretted, pished, and poshed. Very good, thought I. You may fume and fidget as you please, but this is the best plan to pursue with you, I am certain. I like you more than I can say, but I'll not sink into a bathos of sentiment, and with this needle of repartee, I'll keep you from the edge of the gulf too. And moreover, maintain by its pungent aid that distance between you and myself most conductive to our real mutual advantage. From less to more, I worked him up to considerable irritation. Then, after he had retired in dudgeon, quite to the other end of the room, I got up, and saying, I wish you good night, sir, in my natural and wonted respectful manner, I slipped out by the side door and got away. The system thus entered on, I pursued during the whole season of probation, and with the best success. He was kept, to be sure, rather cross and crusty, but on the whole I could see he was excellently entertained, and that a lamb-like submission and turtled-up sensibility, while fostering his despotism more, would have pleased his judgment, satisfied his common sense, and even suited his taste even less. In other people's presence I was, as formerly, deferential and quiet, any other line of conduct being uncalled for. It was only in the evening conferences I thus thwarted and afflicted him. He continued to send for me punctually the moment the clock struck 7, though, and when I appeared before him now, he had no such honeyed terms such as love and darling on his lips. The best words at my service were provoking puppet, malicious elf, sprite, changeling, etc. For caresses, too, I now got grimaces. For a pressure of the hand, a pinch on the arm, for a kiss on the cheek, a severe tweak of the ear. Dang. Yeah, well... Okay, Jane, it was all right. At present, I decidedly deferred these fierce favors to anything more tender. Mrs. Fairfax, I saw, approved me. Her anxiety on my account vanished. Therefore, I was certain I did well. Meantime, Mr. Rochester affirmed I was wearing him to skin and bone, and threatened awful vengeance for my present conduct at some period fast coming. I laughed in my sleeve at his menaces. I could keep you in reasonable check now, I reflected, and I don't doubt to be able to do it hereafter. If one expedient loses its virtue, another must be devised. Yet, after all, my task was not an easy one. Often I would rather have pleased than teased him. My future husband was becoming to me my whole world, and more than the world, almost my hope of heaven. He stood between me and every thought of religion, as an eclipse intervenes between man and the broad sun. I could not, in those days, see God for his creature, of whom I had made an idol. End of chapter. All right, so that is their courtship. I guess their 1 month courtship is it's not like lovey-dovey. Jane decides to just be provoking and kind of like keep him from getting too sentimental just for her sake, especially because with what Mrs. Fairfax told her, like, you have to be careful. Basically, it's like, you're not yet married, so if you like give in to like whatever, I'm sure that she was hinting at, at premarital sex, or those kind of like liberties that she was telling him, don't let him take liberties with your person until you're married. And so that's what Jane decided to take this approach during her courtship with Rochester, but also because she wants to maintain a sense of self. Rochester was beginning their courtship by saying like, oh, I'm going to shower you with all kinds of finery and jewels, and I'm just going to dote on you, and you will like it, and it's gonna please me to give you all these things that you've never had before. So she's like, hold up a sec, like, okay, like, what are you trying to do? So she kind of keeps him in check by doing these things. So I get why a girl is doing that, but that doesn't mean she's not. At the end it says, I loved him so much that I had made an idol out of him. Like, yo. So, let's see. Adele is smart kid, says Akihana, right? She's a good girl. She's like, yeah, I she even tells him, like, I would not go to the moon with you, Rochester. Like, she's gonna get bored of you. She's not, yeah. Like, basically, he's like, yeah, I don't know, I would not want to, like, spend, like, just with you by yourself. Of course, he's talking like, she's like thinking of him as like somebody, like, he's like saying like, oh, like, we're gonna live in the moon. She's like, yeah, but what about her friends? What about her family? What about society? What about doing things, meeting people? Like, you can't just have somebody and like hold him hostage somewhere, because that was kind of like the idea that he was saying. And like, kind of like true to her own French nature, she was like skeptical, not just of the story about the moon, but also about the fairy. She's like, yeah, what you're telling me is sheer nonsense. She's not taken in by his stories of fairy tales. So, yes, Adele just dissed Mr. Rochester, LOL, by saying no fairy will go to him. Yeah. Yes. And also, when Jane is listing the things that Rochester called her, it says he had no such honeyed terms as love and darling. Let me see. says he had no terms such as love and darling on his lips. The best words at my service were provoking puppet, malicious elf, sprite, changeling, and yes, they should add a gremlin. She's definitely being a little bit of a gremlin here. Again, gremlin is a relatively new term for our world. Like it really came into wider usage, you know, in World War something one, probably 1920. So otherwise this would be a great place to include it. He would definitely have called her a gremlin or something. Malicious elf, provoking puppet, sprite, and changeling. Well, how's that for lovey-dovey terms? Ooh, Crusher says I got a meme. Ooh, where's the meme? I need to see the meme. Red Temper says that was an interesting 1-month courtship. I know, right? To each their own. Everybody has a thing that works for them, I guess. But yeah, I think this worked for Jane and for Rochester. You know, Rochester's not one to be like the sentimental kind. So I think the approach that Jane took, I think it suited them both, and her especially. More so because she wants to maintain like a clear, she wants to maintain her sense of self. At one point when he was showering her with all these things, he wanted to get her like half a dozen new silk dresses. She's like, no, only 2. And the 2 she did take were black and gray. So very, very conservative dresses, not gonna be expensive, not gonna be flashy. And she's basically fighting back against his impulse to just shower her with things and basically turn her into like the sort of person that would be accepted by society. And she doesn't want that. She's like, I am not that kind of person, and I am not going to play a different role. Like, you're marrying me. You're not marrying like a rich woman. You're marrying me. Don't expect don't expect a Blanche Ingram out of me, because that's not what you're getting. So good on her. Again, it's always though, like, it's when you're in a relationship though, it's hard to not want to play the role that the other person wants you to be. Like, you tend to lose a little bit of yourself. You tend to change some of your sometimes, not always, but sometimes you tend to compromise some of the things that should be important to you. Hopefully not your values, but there's some things that, you know, you tend to be a little bit more flexible on, and sometimes that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's bad, but for Jane, it's important because she's always been, you know, she's always had to rely on herself, and she's a very individualistic person as well. So it's important that she doesn't let her upcoming marriage to Rochester turn her into his new English Adele Varon. So there's a lot of dynamic going on here. Very good chapter in my opinion, just because it goes into their relationship and their dynamic. Very unique. Haven't found many books that just delve into relationships like this. Like, usually when you have like a romance story, like say about like, ooh, the Duke married like some merchant's daughter or whatever, like they don't really go into the nitty-gritty of like their relationships and their values and how they mesh and how they're gonna get along. They're just like, oh, romance conquers all, like marriage is like the end all be all, like there's nothing. No. So I like how this story really explores what it means to go in a relationship with somebody who's so different from you, and from a like a totally different social economic position and age, and yeah, like it. So yeah, that's what makes this courtship thing work, and it makes it interesting too. And yes, they are bickering every day. They really are bickering every single day. But he loves it. He loves it, you guys. It says that, yeah, like she would absolutely like provoke him to like maybe like piss him off. but he liked it. It kept him on his toes. You know, light bickering, it is. I love light bickering, you guys. I know. With the right person, it's so much fun. Because you're not gonna like disrespect each other. I'm sure she knows exactly where the boundaries are, that she cannot go above, like she cannot step over certain boundaries, you know, because you also don't want to like hurt a man's sense of ego or whatnot. So she was very careful. She did it with a very deft hand. She explained in earlier read-alongs how she did it. Like she was able to handle him. Like even before they were like engaged to be married, she was able to like keep him on his toes. And it took experience, but she had like a kind of instinct for it. So anyway, so it's good to have them have a cute little banter thing going on. Let me see. So, calling. Who do we know that's being called a fool? Yeah. So I'm gonna say something though. I am not a fan of, and somebody brought it up. I was talking to somebody this week about bookworm, and I just don't like. I get name calling like you like provoking puppet or whatnot, right? I get it, like these names, but as long as you don't offend the other person, like I'm fine. But I don't like it when Ferdinand calls Rosamund, now that he knows they're gonna get married and he's working for them to get married. I don't like it that he calls her fool, and it's only happened I think once, but I still don't like it. I don't like it when it's different. It just kind of, I don't like it. But hopefully it doesn't happen again. It was just a slip of the tongue. Anyway, so here's a meme, I think from Crusher. It says, calling your lover sweetheart, my dear or darling, says it's boring, it's predictable, and it's been done before. And then calling your lover malicious elf, provoking puppet, or fire sprite is interesting, is ominous, and suggests they are not of this world and must be feared. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love Spark Notes. They have some really good little memes. Their Instagram, Spark Notes Instagram account, they had some really funny ones of Jane Eyre, but of course they have spoilers, so don't go looking for them. And they're kind of old too, so probably not. It'll be hard to find them. By the way, since we're already here, I wanted to show you an update. I finally got around to creating some merch for y'alls. Unfortunately, I did it through Redbubble, and Redbubble is acting up, so I cannot give you a link yet. I mean, I have the link, it's just not showing up, you guys. I'm so sad and disappointed because I wanted to present it to you. So sad. But anyway, this is basically the design. Blue Castle merch is gonna be up hopefully sometime within the week. I don't know, man. Hopefully today. I'm kind of disappointed, but there it is. It's done. I have like t-shirts and stuff. I have hold on. Okay. I have several stuff going on. So sorry. I did have somebody called me and I told them to text me. I do have several things that are coming up, and then once I've done this, I'm gonna do one for Jane Eyre. So hope you enjoy that. Be on the lookout for that. Let's see what else. Other things. Yes, I got the meme. Thank you, Crusher. Villainous in Another World. What about it? Is that another one with bickering? And Akihana says their bickering kind of reminds me of Ferdinand. Yes, their bickering is good. It's good to bicker. Just don't call the other person a fool. Also, I would never ever call somebody I'm gonna marry like things like a dumbass or something like that, or like offend them. Because once you lose even if it's in play, that's no good. So that's just me. That's just magpie. But that's why I don't. I'm like, don't call people fools. Don't. Anyway. Knowing their personalities, mine's bound to do something to provoke Ferdinand's you fool. Again and again, probably, but he can also like stop her from doing something without recursing to calling him you fool. It could be like, you did it again, or like, you why not call her you provoking puppet? We now here have a wealth of names. We can call him, what was it? He can call her a malicious elf, a provoking puppet, or a fire sprite, a changeling. Kihana says, wow, your blue castle looks majestic. I'm glad. I actually drew it, you guys. I did draw it. And then I put it through like Illustrator to make it look more Illustrator-ish, more like a t-shirt design, because it was looking kind of like, anyway, so it's there. It's a totally magpie original. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it when it does come out. Cinderella Castle in the Sky. Yes, remember, the blue castle is more an idea rather than a physical place. So instead of putting it like on the mountaintop, I put it straight up in this, like, surrounded by mist and clouds, because it's an idea. The real thing is what you should be looking for is, you know, a sense of fulfillment. You know, those are things that are more important than just like straight up living in a castle and riches. No, that's not what Valency was after. She was looking for life, love, liberty, pursuit of happiness, all those things. She looked for them, she got them. That was her blue castle. Anyway, you guys, it is now 6:30. We have been at this read along for a little bit of time. I'm gonna head on out, and I hope that your weekend is marvelous and blessed, that you have a wonderful time, and we will be back on Monday. I'm not sure if it's gonna be it's gonna be Monday morning, so just heads up, either Monday morning or Monday noon. At most, the latest it would be like 3 o'clock, but I'm just not. I'll just make it Monday morning or noon. I hope you can join me there. It's been a blast reading with you guys, and thank you for joining me. I hope to see you then. Bye.